The Iskandars laughed. After all, the sanctions are doing their job. Even India is already refusing to take Russian oil. Putin still has money for the war, but not in the quantities that would make him comfortable. After listening to the fence songs, the bald political pornographer called on America not to play the fool and returned to cooperation. In response, the United States began urgent negotiations with the G7 on the confiscation of Russia's frozen reserves. The White House is insisting that the G7 nations come up with a strategy for using Russian assets by Feb 24, the second anniversary of the invasion. Thus, the Allies are asked to determine whether the money will be used to restore and support the Ukrainian economy or for military purposes. The Russian Foreign Ministry threatened to sever relations with the United States if frozen assets of the Russian Federation are confiscated. The second horse of the Foreign Ministry, Sergei Ryabakov, struck sparks with his hooves. We are ready for any scenario, and the United States should not have the illusion, if it exists, that Russia, as they say, holds on to diplomatic relations with this state with both hands. But Great Britain said it was ready to sign a bilateral security agreement with Ukraine. London can take on the role of a locomotive in defense cooperation with Kiev until the US and EU agree on aid worth $61 billion and €50 billion. It seems that the shadow of Churchill, who once declared war on Hitler and crushed him together, has awakened on Downing Street with allies in the anti-Hitler coalition. True, no one has declared war on Putin yet, not even Zelensky, which allows him to imitate some kind of liberation operation, although everyone understands that this is a classic invasion. But the most important thing is the life of Russians outside the war. Their houses are not shaken by bombings, but only icicles fall from above, killing the slaves at the mercy of public utility workers, as happened in Lubitsy, Moscow region. There, a mass of ice killed several future Ch-Mobiks at the military registration and enlistment office, and one of them went straight to Kobzon, bypassing the frontline roasting. By the way, this week the number of fried ones reached 350,000. The Ministry of Defense celebrated a kind of anniversary with a large gathering with the participation of the Rat Commander, who again growled from the podium at the West. The logic of events suggests that the next target for invasion could be Moldova, which has already announced that it intends to withdraw from almost all agreements within the CIS by the end of 2024. Even the stubborn Orban, hanging over two chairs, said, "The most important thing is that Hungary does not have a border with Russia." That is, the toad's head knows that the Russian swamp can quickly suck in, and Ukraine demonstrates miracles in its resistance to the monster. The head of the Central Bank of Finland and former European Commissioner Olli Rehn proposed to bypass Hungary's veto on economic support for Ukraine by redirecting €80 billion from its stabilization fund to help Kyiv. And perhaps the EU countries will take advantage of this proposal when they gather for an extraordinary summit on February 1. And the UN Security Council is once again demonstrating its worthlessness by postponing the vote on the resolution on the war between Hamas and Israel. The war in the Middle East is not limited to the Gaza Strip, where the IDF has already destroyed Hamas' main communications center. More than 20 nations have agreed to join a US-led coalition to protect shipping in the Red Sea from attacks by Yemen's Iran-sponsored Houthi rebels. Coalition forces will serve as a kind of traffic police, patrolling the Red Sea. The events of the week give a picture of even greater polarization between the cave and the civilized world, when one side is already at war and threatens to transfer the conflict to the EU countries, and the second begins to prepare for a possible war on its territory. The cave begs for the Fuhrer's baldness, and it is impossible to look at this hemp porn without disgust. China shuffles to the side, demonstrating virginal detachment. There are sparks in the offices near the Kremlin, and information leaks speak either of Patrushev's dissatisfaction with Kiriyenko's vigorous activity, or of Patrushev's own involvement in the liquidation of Prigozhin. The gang is uneasy. The latest grab with the use of money from Western companies that escaped from the gateway has occurred. The swamp is chomping, but there won't be such easy money anymore. This means they will start tearing each other apart. In the meantime, The fascist Oppo dogs, the Milevskis and other Kirkorovs are frolicking at a naked Moscow party, dropping the already low libido of the deep dwellers at 6:30. Everything in the cave should be terrifying: art, elitism, and even eroticism. Cave porn makes furry people sick and vomits right onto a tree stump pregnant with a rat.